Right now, if you have a senior dog in your house, there is probably something small they started doing recently, something you noticed but haven't named yet. Maybe they moved their sleep spot, a place they have used for 8-9 years, and then one day it's wrong. Maybe they've been watching you from across the room instead of following you room to room. Maybe they turned down something they've never once refused in their entire life and then settled next to your chair while you ate anyway. You noticed. You filed it away. Maybe you told yourself it was probably nothing. This video is about those moments, not as a checklist of what's failing. As a translation, I've spent the last year reading everything I could find about what happens in the mind and body of a dog in the final stretch of their life. I'm not a vet, I'll say that more than once. But I needed this language when Noodle started showing me some of these things. And because when I was 17 and Rusty was old and slowing down, nobody gave me the words for what he was saying to me. I want to give you the words I didn't have then. Before we start, I need to say this clearly. I am not a vet. Many of the quiet shifts we're about to cover can mimic treatable pain. So our rule today is simple. If you see something change, call your vet first. Let them manage the body. Today, we are just translating the mind. Stay with me, because the last one on this list is the one no study has been able to reach. Number 1, the sleep spot. Your dog has slept in the same place for years. The patch of afternoon light on the living room rug, the corner by the radiator, the exact spot at the foot of the bed that's been theirs since the beginning. One day, they're not there. They've moved, not far, maybe just a few feet, but somewhere new. Somewhere that doesn't make obvious sense, and it doesn't feel like a preference. It feels like a decision they made without you. The behavioral explanation is practical and, I think, quietly important. Older dogs develop sensitivity to temperature, joint pressure, and position in ways that don't always show on their face. The spot that worked for 9 years started sending a different signal to a body that has changed, so they moved. They didn't know how to tell you the old one stopped working. They just stopped going there. The move is information. It's one of the quietest sentences a dog can say. And it's easy to miss because it doesn't look like much from across the room. Number 2, still at the table. The appetite change is the one that scares people. I understand why. It scared me too. What I didn't fully understand at first was the second half of it. A dog can eat less or stop eating and still come and settle next to your chair at meals. Still lift their nose when something comes out of the refrigerator, even if they won't take it. Still want to be in the room, in the exact spot they've occupied at your mealtimes for 12 years. The food conversation and the being there conversation are not the same conversation. What canine social behavior research tells us is that meal times for dogs are not only about food. They're about proximity, about belonging to a group that gathers around a shared resource. Your dog may have lost the appetite, but they haven't lost the pull toward the family when it assembles. They still want to be counted among the ones who belong here. A dog who isn't eating but still shows up next to you at the table isn't asking for food. They're telling you they're still in the room. Those two things deserve to be held separately. Understand that the not eating and the still showing up are two different signals, and the second one is worth hearing on its own terms. Number 3, the sleep depth and the startle. Here's something I got backward for a while. Last winter, around January, Noodle started sleeping longer and deeper than he ever had. I mean out completely. A creak in the floor that used to bring one eye open didn't register. I thought, he's comfortable. Finally at peace with the slower pace. What I've since read is that deep sleep in a senior dog can go 2 directions at once. The body tires more easily, and genuine rest increases. That part is real. But something else happens too. As a dog ages, the brain's ability to filter and prioritize incoming signals can start to shift. Sounds and sensations they've habituated to for years, the background noise of your home, can become harder to sort from actual alerts, so you get a dog who crashes hard and then wakes sharply from something that shouldn't have mattered. The startling, especially if it's new, especially if they flinch when gently approached while asleep, can also be a pain signal. A dog who reacts when touched in a place they never minded before may be telling you something hurts there in a way they can't point to. CCD. Canine cognitive dysfunction, a kind of canine dementia, and pain conditions can both look exactly like this in older dogs. That distinction matters for what comes next. Number 4. The stillness. This is the one I find hardest to describe in plain language. Your dog has been looking at you for years. You know this. But there's a quality of gaze that starts to appear in older dogs, not when they want something, not when they're alerting you to something outside. Just a stillness, a length, like they've stopped checking on you and started simply watching. Like they already know where you are, and they want to see you. The 2015 study in Science by Nagasawa and colleagues at Azabu University showed that when dogs and their owners make eye contact, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, rises in both. The same neurochemical mechanism that bonds human parents to infants, dogs evolved into that loop with us over thousands of years of living side by side. What practitioners at the International Association for Animal Hospice and Palliative Care describe is a shift in gaze quality as dogs age, sometimes tied to cognitive change, sometimes to pain management, sometimes for reasons the research hasn't fully explained yet. The blink rate decreases. The duration extends. Most people who have been through this describe the quality of it before they can explain it. But the long, still look by itself, I would simply meet it. Look back. Whatever is being said in that direction, it's for you. Number 5. Pulling away or not letting go. I want to be honest about this one because I got it wrong in a way that still costs me something to think about. When Rusty started moving toward the edges of rooms, not dramatically, just choosing the corner of the bed instead of next to me, coming when I called but not seeking me out anymore, I told myself he was becoming more independent, self-sufficient in his old age. I actually convinced myself that a 14-year-old dog who had spent his entire life attached to my side had decided, late in the game, that he preferred his own company. I still don't know how I believed that. What the behavioral literature says is different. Both increased clinginess and increased withdrawal are documented responses to pain, disorientation, and physical change in aging dogs. The ones who pull away are often running a very old program. It traces back to the wolf lineage. When you're diminished, remove yourself so the group doesn't carry the cost. It isn't a conscious decision. It's an old instruction running underneath a very old animal. It is not lack of love. It is not preference for distance. It is not your dog moving on without you. Rusty wasn't pulling away from me. He was managing something he couldn't name in the only way he knew. I called it independence. I was wrong, and I want you to know that before you make the same mistake. If your dog's social behavior has changed in either direction, go to them. Don't wait for them to come to you. Number 6, what they can't control anymore. This one asks some gentleness. Because I think it embarrasses the dog in whatever way dogs experience something like that, and it tends to embarrass the owner too. And that combination means it often doesn't get talked about as directly as it should. A senior dog who starts having accidents indoors is not regressing. They're not being spiteful. They're not making a statement about the state of the relationship. What's happening is a convergence of changes, a bladder that no longer signals reliably, a body that can't always bridge the gap between registering the urgency and getting outside in time, sometimes the early confusion of cognitive decline that means the moment registered too late. And then there's the look. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. They're not looking at what happened. They're looking at your face, watching your expression to understand what it means for them, whether the room has changed, whether you're still the same person you were a moment ago. It is one of the most unguarded things a dog can show you. What you show them in that moment matters more than the cleanup. Dr. Hale was the first person to explain to me clearly that incontinence in older dogs has multiple possible causes: hormonal, neurological, structural, and that some of them respond very well to treatment. This one warrants a vet visit, not just patience. Managing an underlying cause is almost always better than managing only the outcome. Number 7, still hearing you. For years, the greeting at the door was the simplest, most reliable thing. You're home. Here's everything that means. Right here, in my whole body, the second I heard your car in the driveway. And then, in some dogs, the getting up starts the slow, not the hearing, Not the noticing, just the coming. You walk in and a head lifts from across the room. A tail starts moving. 2 ears angle toward you, but the body stays where it is. I've heard people describe this as the moment they knew something had changed. I understand why it reads that way. It can feel like the conversation is ending. What the ethological research on aging and habituation tells us is that the greeting behavior requires several things happening at once: pain-free joints, the neurological ability to initiate movement on cue, the coordination to cross the room. A dog who has lost reliable access to any of those pieces may not be able to perform the greeting anymore, while still doing everything the greeting ever actually meant. The tail, the ears, the head rising from the rug the moment your key hits the lock. They heard you. They know you're home. The greeting didn't disappear. It just got smaller, which is not the same thing as going away. Reduced mobility often has manageable causes, and less pain means more of this. Number 8. The breathing. I want to handle this one differently from the others, because it's the one where I'll be most direct with you. You know how your dog breathes? Not because you've studied it, because you have been in the same rooms with this animal for years, and their breathing is part of the sound of your house. The steady rise and fall when they're deep asleep in the chair, the fast panting after a walk, and then the gradual slowing, and then the quiet. When the resting breath changes, not after exercise, not on a hot afternoon, but at rest, during sleep, in a cool room with no obvious cause, your body tends to register it before your mind does. Something goes slightly wrong in the sound of the room, and you feel it before you can name it. Normal resting respiration for most adult dogs falls somewhere between 15 and 30 breaths per minute. Shallower than that baseline, faster, irregular, effortful, ribs working harder than they should, belly pulling in on each breath. These are signals that the body is compensating for something. I'm not a vet, and I'm not going to list possible causes here, because that list is not what you need from me right now. What you need from me is this. Don't wait on this one. Not bring it up at the next routine visit. If your dog's resting breath has changed consistently, make the call. Not in panic, just in care. It's one of those quiet signals where earlier always matters. Number 9. Everything but one thing. There is a pattern that comes up in veterinary hospice conversations, and I've heard enough versions of it now to stop calling it coincidence. A dog in their final stretch begins stepping back from things. The toy that used to launch them across the room sits in the corner, untouched. The walk that used to be 30 minutes is now 5, and sometimes it's clear they'd rather turn back earlier than that. The small game you invented together, the one only you two know the rules to, goes quiet. But almost always, there's one thing that doesn't go. Some dogs still want to be in the kitchen in the morning, not eating. Just there when the coffee goes on, when the house begins to move, when the day starts. Some still find a specific person every single evening and settle nearby. Some still ask, in the softest possible version of how they used to ask, for the one small ritual that has been theirs since they were very young. Those who work in veterinary hospice will tell you a common pattern. As physical and cognitive resources narrow, what remains is what was encoded most deeply. Not what was most elaborate, what was most repeated, what ran 10,000 times. The most habituated behaviors become, in the end, the last ones standing. Whatever that one remaining thread is for your dog, protect it. Keep offering it. If they can't do it the way they used to, find the smallest version that still counts as the thing itself. That's where they still are. Number 10. The look. I almost didn't include this one. Not because it doesn't belong here. It belongs here more than anything else on this list. I kept it for last because I've been trying to find the right words for it for over a year. And what I keep arriving at is that it may not have right words. Or if it does, I don't have them. Not the long, still gaze from number 4. Something different, quieter than that. Like all the other conversations are finished. And they came back specifically to say one more thing. And they came back to you. I was 17 years old when Rusty looked at me that way. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew I should stay still, so I stayed. The research on the human dog gaze, the Nakasawa work, The years of attachment studies, the work coming out of the Duke Canine Cognition Center, none of it quite gets here. You can describe the oxytocin response. You can map what happens neurochemically during mutual eye contact. You cannot describe what it is to be the person a dog finds in one of their last clear moments and looks at without looking away. I won't tell you it's love in the way we mean that word. I won't tell you it isn't. Anyone who claims certainty about what lives in that space has not been there. What I will tell you is, if it happens, don't look away. Whatever is being said, it is for you. It won't last very long, but it will stay. Back at the beginning of this video, I asked you to think about something small your dog started doing recently. A changed spot, a quieter greeting at the door, something you noticed and hadn't found a name for yet. You have some of the language now. Not all of it. Nobody has all of it. But enough to understand that what you're watching is not only a body changing, most of it is still communication. Still your dog, still in the room, still trying to be understood by the one person who has been paying close attention this whole time. They've been doing this their entire lives. They're doing it now. If you've already been through this, if there is a dog whose final days you now see a little differently, whose name deserves to be said somewhere out loud, I want to ask you something simple. Tell me their name down below. Just the name. That's all I'm asking. I read everyone. And the ones about the dogs you still miss, those are the ones I keep the longest. See you out there.